Do you live in a well-paid state, or are you stuck in a cheaper state? Today we'll look at the top 5 highest income states and the bottom 5 lowest income states. Whether you're looking to relocate to a state where you might have a better earning potential, or you're just curious to see where your current state might rank, this list should be interesting and maybe obvious for some. Take a guess on what states will be on our list and keep watching to see if you got it right. Before we get to the list, let's look at the average income in all of the US. According to Forbes Advisor, which is the organization that created this list, the nationwide average annual salary in the US for 2023 is just $59,428, and the average hourly rate is $28.34. So when we look at these individual states, we can compare to see how far above and how far below they rank on the income scale. As far as regions go, the Northeast and West Coast states have higher average salaries than the South and Midwest. But, and this is pretty obvious, those areas with higher income also tend to be more expensive to live in. So is it really worth it to move to a higher income area and face higher living costs? For some ballers, the answer is a definite yes. And for others, it's a definite, huge no. One way to beat this dilemma is to live in a cheaper state while earning the salary of a more expensive state. That's possible for those who are still able to work fully remote, as more and more people have been doing in recent years. We did a video on cities that will actually pay you or give you other appealing incentives like land to relocate there. Check it out in the link somewhere up there after this video, of course, if you haven't watched it yet. Some are small towns looking to attract newcomers, and others are established and bigger cities looking for fresh talent. So back to our list. Where should we start? Should we look at the higher earning states and then look at the lower earning states? I don't know. Let's start with the bad news and end with the good news. So that means the low income states first. And as always, we will do a countdown from the 5th lowest income state to the number 1 lowest income state. And number 5, we have Alabama. The state that was the center of the civil rights movement has one of the lowest average salaries on the list with $50,620. With a population of about 5 million people, Alabama is known for the agricultural industry and college football. Better not still be cotton. According to the Bureau of Economic Analysis, the average cost of living in Alabama in 2023 is around $39,657 per year for the typical single individual. So there's a bit of cushion between the average income and average expense of living. At number 4, we have South Dakota. The home of Mount Rushmore comes in at the number 4 spot with an average annual salary of $49,890. This sparsely populated Midwestern state has a population of less than 1 million people, so there's a ton of room there if you're looking for a quiet getaway and a cheaper place to relocate to. That's because the cost of living in South Dakota is 6% lower than the national average, with housing being 8% lower, utilities being 10% lower, and groceries being 7% lower. Some of the biggest industries in South Dakota include agriculture, mining, and manufacturing. At number 3, we have West Virginia. Few states are as beautiful as West Virginia if you're the outdoorsy type, but the average salary here is nothing to brag about at $49,170. But if you relocate there with a well-paying remote or even local job, you can take great advantage of the low living costs. A study by Consumer Affairs found that West Virginia is the second cheapest state in the nation. If housing is your biggest concern, the study found that West Virginia has the lowest median prices for home buying and renting. So someone making the average salary in West Virginia might be living as well as someone else making a higher salary in a more expensive state. And number 2, we have Arkansas. Arkansas comes in as the runner-up state for the lowest average annual salary with $48,570. This state is full of natural beauty and is the only state to produce diamonds. According to MIT's living wage calculator, a single adult would need to make $31,719 to cover living costs in Arkansas. That means someone making the average salary of about $48,000 can live very comfortably here. According to Zillow, the average home value in this state is just above $200,000, making home ownership, they say, super affordable. I say still super unaffordable because interest rates are at 8% and who could afford to live anywhere? And coming in at number 1, definitely my guess, good old Mississippi, the state that never fails to make any of our worst state lists. And I have a lot of family members there, so I'm sure I'll be getting a phone call after this. Again, Mississippi comes out as the champion of this list as the state with the lowest average income of $45,180. The state, known for blues, magnolias, and the Mississippi River, is home to almost 3 million residents. According to Redfin, some of the pros of living in Mississippi include history, affordable higher education and housing, beautiful nature, and the music scene. Some of the cons of living here include scorching heat and humidity in the summer, thunderstorms and flooding, and those pesky bugs. And yeah, I think I saw a mosquito this big when I was younger. This big. So now we can move on to the good news of this video. The 5 states with the highest average incomes. Although if you live in them, you might be feeling more financially stressed than those in the lowest income brackets thanks to the higher living costs. Going from the number 5 spot down to the number 1 state with the highest average income, number 5, New Jersey. The number 5 state with the highest average salary is the state known for Atlantic City, Jersey Shore, Ellis Island, and the Sopranos. New Jersey boasts a nice average salary of $70,890, and the major industries in the state include pharmaceuticals, financial services, advanced manufacturing, and information technology. As it is for areas with higher income, New Jersey's cost of living is 13% higher than the national average. If you're looking to buy a home, I recommend you don't. You will be faced with home prices that are 31% higher than the national average. At number 4, we have a state that the first president probably wouldn't be happy with, Washington. The state of Washington, known for being home to the tech giant companies, has an average annual salary of $72,350. Income is higher here than New Jersey, but so is the cost of living, which is 16% higher than the national average. If you've been complaining about grocery prices going up where you live, then don't even think about moving to Washington. Here, grocery prices are 14% higher than the rest of the country. The only good news about Washington when it comes to expenses is utilities. Who cares when you can't afford a house? Which come in 8% lower than the national average. So take advantage of those utilities when you're only eating once a day. At number 3, we have California. I know most of you guessed the Golden State would have the highest average income, but it actually comes in at the number 3 spot with an average annual salary of $73,220. The state with nearly 40 million people, which honestly should be considered its own country, has diverse industries from tech to entertainment to agriculture to tourism. The good thing about California is that it's so diverse that you can find relatively affordable areas to live in if you don't insist on staying in super expensive Southern California or the Bay Areas. The bad news is probably nobody wants to live there. And if you do want to live in the popular areas, get ready to pay dearly for it. If you want to live comfortably in those areas, one study found a single person needs to earn above $76,000 a year. And I'm sure you've heard of stories about people in Silicon Valley earning 6 figures and having to live in their cars or sharing a bunk bed. So yeah, with great income and great weather comes great expenses sometimes. At number 2, we have New York. The state of New York takes the runner-up spot with an average annual income of $74,222. The state, known for being the financial center of the U.S., has a population of almost 20 million people. That attractive average salary becomes more or less attractive depending on where you are located in New York State. For example, Albany is 22.8% less expensive than New York City. The cost of living in overall New York State is 20.5% above the national average. But if you dream of relocating to the world-famous Manhattan, life there will cost you 142.5% above the US average. And get this, the cost of housing in Manhattan is 406% higher than the US average. Yeah, if you can make it here, then you can make it anywhere. I wonder what in the heck could beat that for the number 1 spot. And at the number 1 spot with the highest average annual salary, we have the state of, drumroll, Massachusetts. I know none of you guessed Massachusetts. I bet most of you even forgot about this New England state, but Massachusetts actually boasts the highest average salary of $76,600. The most populous state in the region of New England is home to the elite higher education institutions and the nation's first library. The cost of living here is 50% higher than the national average. Housing is 111% higher than the national average, while grocers are 30% higher. So the moral of this video is, or should I say the question of this video is, would you rather live in a high income, high expense state or low income, low expense state? I'm guessing the latter. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I always love reading your opinions. That's it for this episode. We'll be back with more money talks.